remember your first shift, who you played against?
My very first shift, yes, I played against, it was in Carolina. He didn't give me enough ice time.
Carolina,
That's, it was in Carolina. My second game, he put me on the ice with Wayne Gretzky.
But you got it wrong, as we'd have expected. It was Washington. It was Washington, PJ, your first game, as far as Coley remembers.
Well, no, it was...
Oh, you'd remember your first game.
But it was in Carolina, but he gave me an opportunity to play against my favorite, Dale Hunter, one of the favorites. And he put me out there every time Dale had a shift, and it was awesome. He's great.
Okay, Milan Lucic gets a game for the cross-check last night. We'll show the footage of that, and you can take us through what the hearing established and why you came up with one game, Colin.
Well, it was we felt it was a reckless and careless use of the stick. Milan is a first-time offender. It was difficult. It's a playoff game. The player came to Milan in the situation, so there's always issues. We felt the glove made first contact, but the stick was there as well, and we felt it was an unnecessary action with the stick towards the head.
Would it have mattered if it was in the last 5 minutes? Would that have been a suspension any time in the game?
You're really, you're stuck in this last 5 minutes, aren't you?
Well, no, not really. I actually don't mind it, but I'd like to flesh it out. What led to that sort of initiative? And it doesn't come from the competition committee, or does it? It doesn't come from the GMs, or does it? Where does it come from?
It comes from every game, every night. You know, and it comes from the coaches and the managers. If you would hear coaches when that happened in the last minute of a game, they were irate when the other coach would send out a player, and the other coach would say, it's the player who did it, I had no control. The NHL Players Association would blame the coach for sending the player out, saying he had to do his job. They'd say, he's a defenseman, hey, you go and play center. And he got the notice. I know what I have to do at center ice. I've never played center in my life, but I guess if I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And all of a sudden, a game that was supposed to take 1 minute took 31 minutes. And Ron, I don't mind fights. I don't mind tough hockey, but that's stupid hockey. And I haven't seen a good fight in the last 5 minutes of a game. Seldom have I ever seen one. You show me good fights in the last 5 minutes of the game. Usually something stupid happens, players get hurt. It's ridiculous, and that's message sending. People got that confused. When the game's over and there's no consequence, you got to send a message, and you don't even know whether to put your tough guy out or not. If the other team puts their guy out.
What would you do if you were John Stevens the other night? He sort of said, what did he say? I feel bad for Stevens. I could care less about Carcillo. He crossed the line. He gets a game. But John Stevens, and I mean, you can see why he wouldn't put a star out there for fear that something could happen.
I don't want to get into the hearing. I like John Stevens, and John Stevens, sometimes the coach gets a little bit tired in this situation, and sometimes he probably had hoped that the player would have followed his directions. And John doesn't coach like that. John, people may tar John Stevens because he's with Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has a past in the 70s, but they don't really play that way. But
he's got 5 suspensions last year, so. John Stevens, so
his team,
yeah,
right, his team. So look at when you tell the managers and coaches 2 days before the playoffs start, look at the game is a game. We can live with tough hockey. We can live with playoff hockey. We hope it gets elevated. We all like it, but at the end of the game, when it's over with. There's nothing worse. Anyways, I don't know what you think, Ron, but I don't like bullying. That's a bullying move. Don't bully. You know?
Well, then, okay. What do you think they were doing with Havlat, with Camilleri? That's bullying.
Well, bullying when the score is 1-1?
Sure, it's bullying. You're trying to get...
a bully? Come on, Camilleri's not a bully.
I've never known him to do this, but you tell me that isn't a bullying shot.
Well, that's a dumb bully move, then. If it's 1-1 in the middle of a game...
But Scotty Bowman would be the first to say to you, Colin, it's all well and good that we got the power play and we score, or Havlat has a great game, but that could have been a broken jaw. It could have been a broken orbital bone.
Well, if it was a broken jaw, maybe he would have been suspended.
Right.
Maybe there was an injury. But for a player to do that, and Havlat's not a repeat offender. I mean, Camilleri's not a repeat offender. Has he got more than 20 minutes in penalties?
No, but he's getting in Havlat's kitchen, isn't he?
Well, has Havlat got in his kitchen? And how many points did Havlat get that game?
Yeah.
3 points out of 3 goals. I don't.
We disagree on whether it was bullying. When you say about Carcillo,
well, Camilleri's not a bully in my mind, but you know, you got him in the bully category.
He's on his way. He's on as a beauty. Carcillo, you say he never kills penalties. He never takes faceoffs. Those are, I mean, that's like I always say, William Perry. You know, put a 400 guy out to carry the ball, 4th and goal. Sounds like a great idea when he scores. If he fumbled the ball, we'd all knock Ditka for that. But lots of guys use guys in different situations, and I think he was just protecting. I don't want any of my good players out here. It's 6 seconds left in the game, so that shouldn't have entered into it.
Carcillo is a good player in his own right. He does what he does, and but Carcillo has a history too, and that is part of supplemental discipline. And I've talked to Daniel Carcillo many times in the last 2 seasons, and in this situation, his history followed him. At the end of the game, he goes out. Okay, if he doesn't do anything, fine.
Right.
But why does right when the puck drops, why does he have to punch the guy in the head? It's message sending. Now, it might not be as bad as something else, but everything has its measuring stick.
The last thing on the Camilleri punch.
Hold it now, but can we talk about the ivory tower I just came from?
Certainly.
Well, now, why are we in an ivory tower?
I feel if you're, you know what, it's funny because...
We talk to managers, we talk to coaches, we've been in the field. I don't want to pull this card on you because we talked about it, but, you know, we played all of us over there, we played in the 70s and 80s when hockey was crazy. And now you say we live in an ivory tower and make these decisions? We know what's going on. We watch games every night, 1220. I know you watch games.
Sure.
We live it. We die it, we go till 2 or 3 in the morning, and we also have an administrative day. But to say we live in an ivory tower and we make these decisions almost sounds like we don't know what's going on in the real world, the real hockey world.
Well, I think you're in an ivory tower when you're coaching the Philadelphia Flyers for John Stevens. When you're telling him he can't use Danny Carcillo to take that draw, that bothers me. And you know the other thing that bothers me, Coley,
we just didn't do it in our ivory tower, Ron. We did it before from our ivory tower. We've talked to these guys about these things.
No, that's new. That's sort of a new...
No, it's not new. It's not new. We said it last year. And what about when Detroit was beating Calgary? And all of a sudden Calgary unleashed the dogs with about 7 minutes left. Of course, I know you said I'm favoring Ken Hall and Detroit Red Wings too, but Ron, they wish they had a McCarty now or a Kosher or a LaPointe. They don't. They got a good hockey team. So when they're winning like they're winning, are you allowed to come out at 3 or 4 minutes left and say we're gonna give it to you? And that night Calgary give it to them. You know, at some point in time, I like tough hockey, but it crosses the line. I won't call it what it is. And it's not just Calgary, other teams, and if you allow it, they'll do it.
Yeah, who could argue with that? It's like Brashear without Mike Green's getting run endlessly here. Sean Avery, who was like Glenn Sather was Sean Avery, wasn't he, before Avery even thought of being Sean Avery?
You said that, not me.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Vancouver-St. Louis Blues series tonight. That game ended funny. What did you think about David Perron? Great, talented player. It was just clean hits. Final minute of the game. Do we have that, Pac? Yeah, we'll just... And that led to Bieksa and Crombeen. When you sifted through all this and heard from the coaches, what was your take on how this one played out?
Well, Perron threw some hits there, and we know what kind of player Perron is. We have satellite dishes in that ivory tower.
That's another neat thing. I mean, you've talked to Alex Burrows. You fined him $2,500, was it, for the punch on Stortini? Yeah. So you're warning this guy. I'm not say ivory tower is a lousy thing to say, but you are getting into Alex Burrows' head about how he plays. It's not Vigneault running. You're presetting or predetermining. It's an interesting way to sort of police the brave new world.
Well, there's fine lines in our business, Ron, and right there, you know, if I'm coaching, if you're asking me, if I'm coaching that team, I tell 3, is that Bieksa or is that Mitchell? I'm telling, what are we doing? Don't give them any life. Just, we won the game, let's get out of Dodge. He starts that, there's a retaliation, the referees call it as they will.
I think because Perrin got him earlier and he didn't know what to do with Perrin, and finally when Crombeen came by, he just had enough.
I've rubbed shoulders and been involved in a lot of playoff series, both on the ice as a player and as a coach. And Mark Messier was adamant to turn the other cheek. And he told our players a story when we were in New York about, I think it was it Napier that played with him and got speared by a Philadelphia Flyer in that series? Was it Napier?
I don't recall, but it could be.
But anyways, we turned the other cheek, and he said, sure, we wanted to get him back. Hospodar. We wanted to get him back, but we wanted to win a Stanley Cup worse. And we all want to get people back. When is the time to play tough?
How's Jim Gregory?
Jimmy Gregory is great. He's on the road to recovery. He had a serious heart attack in our office, and we all love Jimmy Gregory, and we were worried about him, really worried for 3 or 4 days, and he's making a real good comeback right now. You know,
Grapes and I say it all the time. The 2 guys we respect the most in hockey are you and him. So, you know, it's fun to talk.
You still love me?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry about the ivory tower.
Oh, there's one other thing. There's ivory tower.
Sticks?
Well, scarred for life. Joey Kosher. What's that got to do with anything?
It would be good. I wish we had more time.
Life.
It was for Jim Kite, and that's a long story if you didn't see it last night. But to be continued. Playoffs are young. Big game coming up in Missouri.